Welcome to the Calder Farmstead.
Now the Ice Hawks back out to center in transition. Carlson with Quenneville 2-on-1. Right when Carlson comes, Quenneville scores!
Here's a chance for Barrett. Fighting scores! Off the face-off! Up in Zeminger. Pulled back to Werenski. Has it. Shoots one. Bounces off a man. 5 seconds left. Werenski. Another jam on the shot. Turning and firing. They score! They score! They score! Now they catch each other and they both go right over the top. Matching rights to one another. McDermott gets the helmet off of Cassie.
And now with 9 minutes gone in overtime, the Bears breaking out right side with Bear. Looks like cutting to the net. Bear will score!
And here are your hosts, Cece and Sean.
Hello and greetings from the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado.
And Buffalo, New York.
Welcome to the Calder Farmstead Podcast, episode number 47 for Saturday, September 18th, 2021. If you were hoping for a podcast featuring cannabis cultivation tips in grow houses, where it's legal, of course, we are not going to be much help. This is an American Hockey League podcast, and my name is CC Hockley, AHL editor of Full Press Hockey.
And I'm Sean O'Brien from Stats Track and the AHL's only analytics guy.
And as always, we thank you for tuning in with us.
If you're new to hearing CC and I talk about hockey, we're going to preview some of the teams in the AHL for the upcoming 21-22 season. We both watch a lot of AHL games, and I'm going to talk about what we see when we watch the film, as well as use some advanced stats to help us break it down. If that's new to you, you may want to head over to our podcast feed or YouTube channel, wherever you're listening to us from, and check out episode 0. It's a short primer on some of the stats that we're going to be talking about, as well as how we view what's important on the ice. So if you're new to some of the more advanced hockey stats terms like the point shares model, or newer hockey terms like controlled zone entries, go check that out so you'll better be able to pick up what we're putting down. I promise it isn't that nerdy or technical. It's only 20 minutes, and let's be honest, you wasted 20 minutes today trying to figure out why Napster is trending on Twitter. You'll never get that time back, so next time, why not spend a little more time with us talking hockey?
Yeah, I had a flashback when I saw that. I'm like, I was more of a LimeWire guy myself, but the 90s were a long time ago, Shawnee. That's all I got to say there. Well, hey, a quick note before we begin. We are doing a contest and giving away 3 free AHL TV team packages. So to enter, go to our Linktree page. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's in the link below. If you're listening on audio form, that link is linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. Go there, click on the AHL TV giveaway button for instructions on how to enter. And yeah, you could win a AHL TV team package for this season. All right. Well, today we are previewing the Rochester Americans, Cleveland Monsters, Syracuse Crunch, and Utica Comets. In that order, we are focusing on the AHL's North Division. So let's get right to it. We're going to jump into the Amerks stats capsule real quick. The Rochester Americans are headed up by Seth Appert. He's entering in his second season. The 2020-21 record for the Americans was 11-15-2-1. That's a .431 points percentage, 6th out of 7 in the North Division last season. The affiliations stay the same. Buffalo in the NHL, Cincinnati Cyclones in the ECHL for Rochester, and game scheduled 76. Let's talk additions real quick. Mitch Elliott, Nick Boca, Matthew Carnes, goaltender Matt Robson, defenseman Peter Tischke coming over from the Colorado Eagles and Grizzlies organization, Brendan Warren, Lucas Craggs, Ryan Scarfo, Mason Yopst, Josh Tevis, Ryan McInnes, Ethan Prow, goaltender Aaron Dell, although he's on a 2-way contract, probably is going to be backing up Craig Anderson in Buffalo, Jimmy Schultz coming over from Henderson, and Sean Malone wrap up the additions for Rochester. Subtractions coming into this season: Ryan Jones, Dalton Smith heading over to the Colorado Eagles, Remy Ely getting picked up by the Tampa Bay organization, Nicholas Welsh, Stephen Fogarty, CJ Smith, Jean-Sebastian Day heading to Laval with a number of other Quebecois this season, and Dylan Blugis, most recent of the subtractions for the Rochester Americans. So, with all those said, let's dive into the guys that are staying put or that are coming in. Let's talk about the forwards core for the Americans. Now, it's very hard to shake out a roster here as there are a lot of questions on who makes the Sabres, who goes back to Europe, and who starts off in Rochester. So without trying to talk about 20 forwards, we cast a wide net and a group with diverse skill set and see if they can find chemistry. It should be deep for sure. We'll start with Arttu Ruotsalainen. Hard to say if Ruotsalainen makes an impact with the Amherst this season, as he has a chance to make the Sabres out of camp. Now, in the off chance that he is in Rochester, let's talk about his game a bit. I like his game a fair amount. He's got good but not great puck skills and playmaking vision. Hockey IQ is high. His shot is NHL caliber. He is a smaller forward at 5'8", which isn't a problem in and of itself, but his skating speed, specifically his burst, isn't what you'd want from a player that size. Now at the AHL level, I think he's a difference maker on offense, but I could see him being a usable player on a rebuilding Sabres team too, because Lord knows the Sabres are in rebuild mode. Michael Mersch, let's talk about him. What Mersch lacks in refined and polished puck skills, he makes up for in work ethic and hockey IQ. He's a grinder that has good shooting talent for the AHL level and some playmaking vision too. His skating stride is unfortunately inefficient, and he often gets over his toe caps in short bursts, but his anticipation and tendency help from letting this hold him back from being effective on the forecheck or during the cycle. He's another AHL veteran leader that can contribute on the score sheet and plays a style that I'd want in my locker room. I think he maybe isn't a vital part of the Amherst offense, but is more of a depth scorer that contributes in one way or another every night. Moving on, let's go to Dawson Dipitrio. I threw in an extra syllable there. Wrapped up a good but unspectacular college career at our favorite directional Michigan, Western. He didn't light the world on fire in Kalamazoo over there, but he does have a good offensive toolkit that allows him to make plays in tight. His playmaking vision and puck skills are good. He shows flashes of higher end creativity. Skating is average, but if he added a gear, I think that would be a big boost for him, especially at his size. And I don't know how well he transitions from the college game to pro, but I think he's got a good shot. Next, we've got Sean Malone, returns to Rochester after a one-year vacation in Chicago with the Wolves. Good defensive awareness, talented penalty killer, is physical and can win battles along the wall. Offensively, his skill set isn't anything sexy or terribly dynamic. He has okay playmaking vision and decent puck skills, but won't be dangling defenders one-on-one. He's got average shooting talent. Skating's also average. He won't burn anyone outside, but he isn't slow by any means. Biggest offensive weapon is his ability to play below the goal line and retrieve pucks using his hockey IQ to disrupt breakouts. Now, I know that may not sound like much, but his very unsexy game allows his sexier counterparts to get the puck, and that's kind of important. Ultimately, he'll be a depth scorer paired with more skilled line mates, and he'll also be a top penalty kill guy, which, it's always valuable to have those special teams guys. Brett Murray. I thought Murray looked better last season for Rochester. He certainly stepped up when it became a gong show in the Sabres organization in the middle of the year. He's a good net front presence. He can finish in tight. His biggest drawback, though, is still his skating. And because of that, I don't think he'll ever be a play driver. He'll need teammates who get the puck through the neutral zone. Murray is likely to be a middle six forward who can see some time as in the net front role on the second power play unit. So look out for him there. Andrew Ogilvie. The biggest question with Ogilvie is, can he stay healthy? He had 2 concussions his rookie season. He missed some time in 1920 with injuries. Missed the last 14 Amherst games last year with what I assume was with injury. He wasn't called up to the taxi squad for Buffalo during that time either, so it's a fair assumption. If he can stay healthy, Ogilvie brings work ethic and pressure-based playing style to the Americans. He's a good forechecker, physical without ending up in the box. He's intense and doesn't float around or take shifts off. He has good defensive awareness, valuable penalty killer. Offensively, he's good at finding soft ice in dangerous areas and has some finishing talent in close. His puck skills and playmaking vision, they're pretty average, but he lacks dynamic qualities in an offensive game, kind of as a note there. His skating isn't very good, and a lot of his mobility is work ethic based. It would be improved with a focus on a more efficient stride. He's still a good middle six forward that has defensive value and can be a good depth scorer. Next up, we've got Linus Weisbach. After a standout senior year in Wisconsin, Weisbach does seem bound for the Amherst. The basis of his game is speed. He has that top speed that's above average in the AHL or the NHL, let alone the AHL. He uses that speed well to put defenders on their heels and create offense off the rush. His playmaking vision and puck skills are improving, but are really just average at this point. His shot, specifically his one-timer, is an absolute weapon, and he should be stapled to the right half wall on the power play. If he can find a favorable spot in the lineup, Weisbach can be a regular on the Amherst highlight reels this season. Lastly, we've got Jack Quinn. An okay rookie season last year, given his age and the chaos that was the Amherst last season. I tell you, I expect a lot more out of him this season, though, as he adapts adapts his speed more to the speed of the pro game. Quinn still possesses an NHL caliber toolkit on offense with great puck skills who can beat defenders one-on-one. He competes hard and isn't shy around the net front. He has a reputation as a sniper, but I don't think of him as a pure shooter. His shot is just short of great, but he puts himself in good positions to get quality shots off. Defensively, he's more solid than you'd think, given his offensive skills. His big drag is his skating speed, which holds him back and is a good portion of why he struggled at times last year. Now, regardless, I expect to see a leap forward from him this year in production and hope he can step up and be a force for the Amherst in an offensive group that lacks firepower. Those are some key guys in the forward core for the Rochester Americans. Shawnee, take it away with the defensive core.
Another big question of who the Sabres keep and send back. I like the group as we think it shakes out, but should the Sabres decide to pluck some guys from camp, this could get a little dicey. Let's start off talking about Jacob Bryson. I'm not sure if Bryson makes the Sabres out of camp or starts the season in Rochester, but for the sake of this preview, we're going to say ends up in Rochester. Bryson's skill set is one based mostly on his skating ability, which is high end. He's fast, has great edge work, and uses advanced concepts like linear crossovers to be able to transport the puck through the neutral zone should he choose to. He has good playmaking vision and pretty good puck skills that can man a second power play unit well. Defensively, he's good at defending his blue line because of his skating, but struggles a bit in zone due to his lack of physicality. Overall, I like his game, and I think he's a lock for a top pair role in Rochester if he doesn't sneak onto the Sabres roster. Big veteran signing, Ethan Prow. Prow comes back after a one-year Euro vacation. Offensively, Prow's stat sheet doesn't tell the story of how he scores. He has good shooting talent, but he adds layers that make his shot more dangerous. He doesn't just wind up from 80 feet away hoping to beat AHL goalies cleanly, because that's stupid. He gets inside the high-danger areas for shots. He uses fakes. He adds deception. Don't get me wrong. He's a cannon, but the other stuff is why he scores more often than not. He moves the puck well and is a smooth skater, albeit with average speed. His defensive skating isn't the best, and a few times his gaps in the neutral zone have been exploited where a better skating defenseman could have killed the play. Still, he's a weapon in the offensive zone and is passable on his own end and should be in the top four and glued to power play one. Next, we've got to talk about Casey Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald's another solid skater who can make plays with his feet to beat forecheckers as well as kill plays in the neutral zone. His skating allows him to join the rush frequently, which is a huge boost in transition. Offensively, his skill set is very average. He moves the puck well in transition, but doesn't have the same vision for making plays in the offensive zone. His shot is unimpressive, and he's prone to just heaving pucks from distance and hoping instead of shooting with a purpose or trying to make moves to the inside to get a better shot location. He's scrappy in the defensive zone and engages physically often, despite being not a very big guy. He's very aggressive in the offensive zone as well and chases pucks a little too much for my liking. Still, there are useful tools here, but not necessarily the ones that find him on the score sheet often, but I think he still plays a valuable role for the Amherst this year. Oskari Laaksonen. Laaksonen is one of my favorite half players. Offensively, high hockey IQ, sees moves ahead. Because of this, he has tremendous poise and rarely feels pressure to make dump-ins or an off the glass and out kind of play. His anticipation and playmaking vision are also one way he compensates for his quite ugly skating stride. He has decent speed, but that's almost entirely a byproduct of his work ethic and not efficiency. His shot is nothing to write home about, but he seems to know it and uses quick and deceptive passing in the offensive zone to generate scoring chances as opposed to ripping pucks. Defensively, he not good. Hence, half player. He makes bad reads defending his blue line. He loses guys in the defensive zone. None of that is unfixable, but it does need to see improvement if he's going to be a top 4 option in Rochester this year. One more player we need to talk about here is Matthias Samuelson. Not a terrible rookie season. He's physical, uses his size well to defend and win battles at the net front or along the wall without taking dumb penalties, which isn't of itself a skill, as there are a lot of guys who are just like, how many cross checks can I get away with before somebody calls me? Offensively, Samuelson leaves a lot to be desired. Doesn't move the puck well or even have average puck skills. His playmaking vision is below average as well. He skates okayish for his size, but he definitely doesn't have the foot speed or lateral explosion to be anything special in defending his blue line in transition. He can have value as a partner with an offensive-minded defenseman, but he seems destined for a bottom 4 role with some PK time, which, again, that brings value to your team, but he's not someone that you're going to see on the score sheet night in and night out. Those are the defensemen we think are going to be kind of the bigger playmakers for this Amerks team this season. There are a lot of other guys at the bottom, but we have a certain amount of time we've allotted for defense. So, Cece, tell me about the goalie room we have going on in Rochester.
Well, like you mentioned, Sean, there's only a set amount of time that we have, so we're just going to cover 2 of the guys that we think are going to make an impact, quote unquote, for Rochester next season. First up, Dustin Tokarski. Easy for me to say. Stumbled over that a little bit. Coming back for his 13th AHL season, and hopefully the veteran mentor that can take Rifle, UPL, to the next level. Tokarski brings a winning pedigree, having been part of teams that have won 2 Calder Cups, a Memorial Cup, a WHL title, and World Junior Gold. That's quite a decorated career. Tokarski has been a reliable starting AHL goaltender for the majority of his career. He still has the athleticism to make post-to-post saves, but his game is mostly relying on his ability to read the play and get square to shooters with sound technique and movement. And speaking of the guy that we call Rifle, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. Rifle looked better this season than last, which isn't saying a whole lot. He's a good size. He has a good size frame, 6'4", decent athleticism, and he has an active glove hand and tracks the puck well. His biggest areas of improvement are going to be finding his angles and consistent focus, as he let in a few too many bad goals for my taste in a down year for the AHL talent pool in general. He needs to take a leap forward this year. He's 22. He's had 25 AHL starts at a .886 career save percentage. Is that good, Sean?
It's not great, Bob.
Not great. That's not gonna cut it this year. If he hopes to continue if he hopes to continue in the Sabres organization as the primary goalie prospect, he's got Devon Levy and Eric Portillo certainly have seen their stars rising. Rifles has just kind of been hovering. So this is kind of a make or break year, kind of a show me season for UPL in Buffalo's organization. We've talked forwards, we've talked defensemen, we've talked goaltenders. Now it's time to talk team outcomes. And first and foremost, Shawnee, you've got best case scenario.
Best case is all the kids stay and UPL, aka Rifle, takes the leap forward that he needs and solidifies their goalie tandem. Guys like Biro and Picard take steps forward. Jack Quinn looks like the first round sniper that he was always supposed to be. Best case scenario, the Amerks finish with 83 points and a 54.61% points percentage. That's good for 4th in the division.
Shawnee talks best case. I talk worst case for the Amerks here. There's a very good chance that guys like Quinn, Ristolainen, and Bryson spend significant time in Buffalo this season. Rifle might also get looks there. And if that's the case, the depth behind them isn't awful, but it's not great. And this division looks to be very tight. Worst case scenario, 72 points for a 47.37 points percentage and last place in the division. Sean, what's the most likely case for the Amerks, though?
So the model has Rochester projected for 81.18 points and a 53.41% points percentage. The model is a lot higher on the Amerks this year than I am. The middle of this division, and this is going to be a common theme throughout our episode preview here of the North and future North Division previews. This division is tight, and it's going to be tightly contested, and the Sabres could easily, quote unquote, see what they have in a lot of the younger guys. I'll take the under on 81 and say 78 points. That 3-point margin takes their points percentage from finishing fourth to finishing last. That's how tight this division is. You know, an overtime trip here or there, things could shake out very differently, but I think the Sabres pull a lot of guys, and the depth behind them is not what you're hoping for from, you know, middle six and top six forwards in the AHL. I think they're probably going to finish towards the bottom of this very tightly contested division by just a hair.
Yeah, I mean, Sean and I were talking about it before the episode, and it's like those bottom 5 teams, like they're separated by what, 4 percentage points in points percentage?
In points percentage, they're separated by like 1.5 points percentage wise. In terms of like standings points, it's like 4 points. So literally, like if one team sneaks into overtime 2 more times over another team, they're going to move up some spots and sneak into a playoff round. Like that's the difference between 4th and 7th in this division. It's tight.
That's going to be the theme, like you said.
All right, so we're going to take a break here. After the break, we'll get to Cleveland, Syracuse, and Utica season previews. If you're just here to see the Amerks, thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from, so that way you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, check us out on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at The Calder Farmstead and Twitter at Calder Farmstead. We're also doing a contest and giving away 3 free AHL TV team packages. To enter, go to our Linktree page, linktr.ee/The Calder Farmstead, and click on the AHL TV giveaway button for instructions how to enter. Everything you need is at that link, as well as the links to all our social media, the most popular podcasting platforms, this YouTube channel. Everything you would want to go is at that link. Check it out. We'll be right back to talk Cleveland Monsters next.
We've got our first team in the North Division down and covered. It's time to move on to a team that is returning to the North Division after a season over in the Central Division, and that team is the Cleveland Monsters. Their head coach, Mike Eaves, enters his 3rd season behind the bench. 2021 record was 16-10, 1-2. That's a .603 points percentage, good for 2nd out of 6 teams in the Central Division. And of course, like I mentioned, this year they're moving back to the North Division. And their affiliations for 21-22, of course, Columbus in the NHL, but they have a new ECHL affiliation in the Kalamazoo Wings. Why are you shaking your head, Shawnee?
Dom.
Hey.
There are 3 ECHL teams closer to them than Kalamazoo. Why?
Because they're all taken. They're all spoken for, I think. Hey, when the dance music hits, sometimes you just got to grab the partner that's open. And that's exactly what happened with Columbus and Cleveland. Kalamazoo, you know, Utica's gone, or at least Vancouver and Utica. Yeah. So anyway, we won't get too much into that. They're going to be playing 76 games this year. Let's talk additions for the Monsters. Cole Castles and Olivier LeBlanc coming over from the Belleville Senators. Brennan Gaunts, Cole Clayton, Billy Sweezy, goaltender Jet Greaves, Justin Danforth coming back to North American professional hockey after 3 years in Europe. Giovanni Valalti, Igor Shinakov, thank you. Boy, some of those Russian names give me issues for sure. Thank you, Shawnee. Subtractions, Zach Dalpe out, Ryan McInnes out, Stefan Matteau heading over to the Colorado Eagles, Cliff Poo, I think is heading to Europe. Cole Sherwood is going to Belleville, I believe. Adam Clendenning, we talked about him last episode, Lehigh Valley. Wyatt Newpower, Brad Thiessen retired, called it good, called it a career. And unfortunately, Matisse Kivlenix. Yes, we've got him represented up there. And we renamed our Goalie Poll 80 challenge, hashtag Goalie Poll 80 challenge in his honor. So those are the subtractions that we have for the Monsters this year. Sean, talk about the forwards that people in Cleveland and paying attention to the Monsters can look forward to seeing make an impact this season.
So we aren't entirely sure who makes the Jackets and who doesn't yet. We're kind of like our Rochester preview. Columbus is in kind of a place where we don't expect them to be competitive in the NHL, and they could do a lot of, hey, let's look at this guy for an extended period of time in the show to see what happens. But if it shakes out the way we think it will, Cleveland could have an embarrassment of riches at forward. There's a lot of speed paired with guys who can move the puck once it gets to the offensive zone. Let's start with the man who made 90% of the 2020 NHL draft floor say, who? Yegor Shinnikov is finally coming to USNA. Does he stick in Columbus or spend the season getting seasoned in Cleveland? I have no earthly idea, but let's say he goes to Cleveland because otherwise we'd be having some awkward quiet time here. Shinnikov has a lot of offensive tools that I like. Solid puck skills and can make defenders look bad one-on-one. He has good playmaking vision and can find seams in the offensive zone, especially on the power play, although he's not a terribly patient playmaker. His main weapon is his shot. He has the velocity and a wheelhouse bigger than the West Side market. On power plays in the KHL, he looks like Ovechkin on the left faceoff circle. The penalty kill knows it's coming and just can't stop it. Like any young prospect, there's still a lot of work to be done, and almost all of it is in his skating. He shows flashes of burst, but his skating stride is very inconsistent and in need of refining when it breaks down. Defensively, he's not great, and it's another area for him to focus on. A lot of it is more just having a stick in the right place and a little more effort on his part, but skating efficiency improvements will also help here. Next, we have to talk about a guy who doesn't need skating improvements in Liam Foote. If you've seen Liam Foote play, you already know he can absolutely fly. That's the core of his game. Speed and getting the puck through the neutral zone and putting the defense on their heels. His puck skills and playmaking vision are just okay. His shot isn't terribly noteworthy, but his speed paired with his work ethic are what separate him from the pack of the AHL and are going to get him looks in the NHL. Defensively, he's okay-ish, won't stand out. He's probably going to get looks in the NHL again this season, but I expect he'll be a top-line player for Cleveland for as long as he's there. Speaking of guys putting themselves on NHL radar, Tyler Angle. Last season, it was a big one for him to be finding his way back on the Jackets' radar. He certainly found a lot of the offense that he had in the OHL as an overage player. He has the toolkit to succeed and show last season that it wasn't just a fluke. He has good playmaking vision, solid puck skills, a good shot, and he works hard. My concern is still his skating. I don't think it holds him back in the AHL by any means, but I think it keeps him in the AHL. I don't expect him to be a point-per-game player this season for the Monsters, but finishing as a top 6 AHL forward is about where I expect him, and I think that's still very respectable. Brennan Gaunts is back after a year vacation in Sweden. Good 200-foot player who you'll never see quit on a shift. Gaunts has a good amount of skating speed and can turnstile defenders if they're not careful. He's also got good puck skills in tight, paired with a pretty good release on his shot. All in all, he's a very solid top 6 forward on a team that appears to be loaded with good top 6 forwards. Much like Trey Fix-Wolanski. Only got 9 games in Cleveland before a knee injury ended this season. But like Foodie, he could absolutely fly. It remains to be seen how much that knee injury is fully healed and if that affects his skating at all. Fingers crossed it doesn't, because guys who can fly are very fun. Unlike Foodie, though, I like his puck skills and shot a good bit. He doesn't share Foodie's compete level, but he's not a slouch. I think he could absolutely pick up where he left off last season, given that his knee is 100% healthy, which is the AHL. We don't know who's hurt ever. So I'd like to think that his knee is back to where it was before, but we won't know until we see him on the ice. And even then, we still might not know. But I think he very much can just plug back into being a top-line forward like he was for, a tiny sample last year. Tyler Sakura appeared to find his groove last season with the Monsters. Part of me wonders how sustainable that was after seeing him do just fine in Rockford for years. Sakura has a good but not great skill set, playmaking vision, solid puck skills. Skating is good, but he's not burning guys. His shot is fine, more quick release and accurate than puck velocity. Defensively, he's responsible, but not overly so. I think he'll do well this year in Cleveland, but part of me can't shake the idea that he hasn't taken that step forward and last season was a mirage. I'm not sure why I have these kind of harbored feelings towards Tyler Sakura, but I think there is an outside chance that he kind of becomes the depth scorer again and isn't the top line star that he was last season, but we'll see. Cole Fonstad had another good year in the WHL and has a good offensive skill set. His one-on-one puck skills are impressive, and he uses his body to protect the puck well. His playmaking vision is a strength, and he can find lanes on the power play. Others simply cannot. He has shooting talent, but it's nothing special. His biggest problem is skating. He's a smaller forward and lacks burst or top speed. He can be effective in the offensive zone, but he needs line mates to get transition going to use those skills. Thankfully, last season, the Monsters excelled in transition, and they roster, at least currently, a bunch of guys who can skate. So this shouldn't be a problem for him, provided he gets good line mates that balance that with him. Justin Danforth is an interesting piece here. After a solid college career at Sacred Heart, he bounced around the ECHL and AHL immediately after graduating. Tore up the ECHL in 17-18, got 15 games in Rochester where he did fine, 5 points in 15 games, and then just said, but what about Europe? Decided to go to Liga for 2 years and the KHL for 1 where he just tore it up. Solid shooter in tight, mostly because he has a quick release and is able to fire off both feet and from bad angles. He has solid puck skills and made quite a few KHL defenders look bad. His biggest asset is his speed, though. He turnstiled a number of KHL defensemen last season, which makes me think that that's sustainable in the AHL as well. Defensively, he's not good. But when you can do the things offensively that he can, I think that's okay. I think he looks like a potential weapon for the Monsters this season if that KHL production and the film I watched from him in the KHL can hold up in the AHL, which I think it should translate fairly well. Cole Castles is one of the easiest players to summarize his game in a single sentence. Limited offense, great defense. He's a defense-first shutdown center who, when paired with more offensively skilled line mates, can be a useful third-line contributor on the score sheet. Doesn't have shooting talent, and his playmaking vision and puck skills are limited, but he can kill penalties and be trusted in the closing minutes of a one-goal lead kind of game with the best of them. His calling card was in juniors. He shut down Connor McDavid for a playoff series in, I want to say, the OHL. Last but not least, we have Adam Haluka. I genuinely thought that when Fix Wolanski went down, he took Haluka's season with him, as Haluka looked dunzo until he found Fix Wolanski's line, and the two of them just clicked. He definitely missed having Trey around, but Haluka did find his game in the latter parts of the season. As one of the elder statesmen of this team, I still expect him to be a solid contributor, even if Father Time is most certainly catching up to him. He can still win battles, find soft ice in dangerous areas, and has good finishing ability on plays in tight. Skating-wise, I'm not going to exaggerate. He's slow. But he can mitigate that somewhat by the speed of his line mates, anticipating the play in front of him, and using his hockey IQ from a lifetime of professional hockey. I'm not positive that he falls back into the form that we were expecting to see the entirety of last season, but I think there's a good shot, especially if they keep that chemistry with him and Trey Fix Wolanski. Those are all of the forwards that we could muster in this forward segment. Cece has been quiet for some time now. Is getting antsy over there. Tell me about the defense, Cece.
I thought I was staying pretty still, but all right. Well, the defense, not the deepest or sexiest defensive core here, but a solid one that can definitely move the puck. First and foremost, let's talk about the Seattle Kraken legend himself, returning from the Pacific Northwest, Gavin Bairuther. Side note, I still have no idea why the Kraken drafted Bairuther, then made very little to no effort to sign him. What exactly did that accomplish? I have no idea. Anyway, Bairuther is known as a known entity among the Monsters faithful, as last season he was a solid puck-moving defenseman for them. Yeah, kind of spoiled that in the intro, didn't I? He has good puck skills and an above-average shot for the AHL. His skating is good, but he lacks speed or polished edge work. Defensively, he's fine, but most of his value is from the ability to jumpstart the counterattack game with good first passes and his ability to make plays in the offensive zone and on the power play. Next up, Thomas Shemich. There we go.
Shemich. You had it the first time.
I had it the first time. I don't know why I added that extra. Okay. Thomas Šemić. I think the Monsters agreed with Šemić as he looked better in Cleveland than he ever did in Springfield. Šemić has smooth skating, but isn't particularly fast. I do like his edge work, however. He calmly moves the puck under pressure and finds good passing lanes that enable the Monsters' rush attack to get going. In the offensive zone, I like that he picks spots to come up off the blue line and crash the home plate area, but it seemed like teammates rarely found him in those moments. Defensively, he's fine. No more, no less, middle of the road. I think he'll easily repeat his marks last season and be a very good second pairing guy. Next up, Jake Christensen. I was surprised at how much of Christensen's offense transferred from juniors to the AHL last season, but I do like his game. His hockey IQ and his puck skills are solid. He has a cannon for a shot, although I think he relies on it too much and will try to beat goalies clean from downtown, which is something that works a lot better in juniors than it does in professional hockey. While he's mobile enough to do good edge work, I don't like his skating speed and worry about him handling the faster pace that this season in the AHL should bring. Should he be able to keep up with that and stay abreast with the speed of the game, I think he could easily be a sneaky candidate for the Monsters' top 4. Lastly, Cole Clayton. I'll be the first to admit that I don't know much about Cole Clayton. He was undrafted out of juniors in Medicine Hat playing for the Tigers. He's a puck-moving defenseman who skates okay. From what I've seen, I don't think a lot of his offensive, prowess translates to the pro game. He scored often on hard wrist shots, beating goalies clean from a distance. That can work against junior goalies. Again, like we talked about with Jake Christensen, it's not nearly that effective at the AHL level in the goaltenders that are in that caliber of the AHL level. So, yeah. Anyway, that's the defensive skaters that we think are going to be good for the Cleveland Monsters. Let's talk about goaltending. And Sean, let's hear about that voodoo that you do, or at least talk about so well.
Well, the G1 is obvious. What's behind him is a choice. So G1, Daniel Tarasov, showed last season that he certainly has all of the tools to be a great goaltender. 6'5" and great athleticism. That's dripping with potential. Consistency has not been his friend, and I'm sure last year you can chalk up a lot of that to mitigating circumstances as to why he struggled with consistency. First time in America, pandemic protocols, new team in front of him, not a lot of time to adjust, etc., etc. Those are all legit reasons, but potential is only good if you realize it. And this season, he needs to take a step forward and carry the load consistently. If for nothing else, then because I don't believe in Cam Johnson. I think Johnson and Jet Greaves battle it out to determine who backs up Tarasov and who goes to Kalamazoo. Side note, again, there are 3 ECHL teams closer to Cleveland than Kalamazoo. Cam Johnson has 32 career AHL starts, all of which were for a very bad bingo team. So it's hard to hold those too much against him. His ECHL and college numbers are more promising looking, but if I'm Cleveland, I really don't want to find out how much of his time in bingo was his fault. I think he'll probably be the safer choice over Jet Greaves from an experience perspective, but I would be nervous about giving Cam Johnson a big workload. I'm imagining that the Monsters are going to try and figure out, can Daniel Tarasov play every game? No, but can we try? Behind him is Jet Greaves. Greaves is in the Traverse City Prospect Tournament with Columbus right now and has an AHL deal with the Monsters. But I'm thinking he isn't going to light the AHL on fire here. To be completely upfront, I've never seen him play. Going fishing for 1920 OHL film was not a part of the journey for putting this previews together. Sorry, guys. For starters, I will explain, though, why I think he's maybe not going to have the best season in the AHL. He didn't play last season, so it's been a long time since he's really seen live fire action. His OHL career was not spectacular. The transition from college and junior to pro is the most treacherous one for players. It's even harder. In their own words, players say going from juniors to the AHL or going from college to the AHL is harder than going from the AHL to the NHL. This is especially true for goaltenders. Maybe Jet Greaves shows me up here. He certainly could. Goaltending is voodoo after all. But I think he struggles as a young pro and spends more time in Kalamazoo this year.
Yeah, Danil Tarasov, I think you might want to employ the Carey Price strategy that the Canadiens did a few years ago and just have him play, a good 55, 60 games this season, maybe throw Cam Johnson and Greaves in there for a little bit. Might be wiser to lean into that than, a 50-50 workload. Yeah. All right, let's talk outcomes. Best case scenario for Cleveland. This is a deep group, as we've said before, especially up front. When you can roll 3 or 4 lines that can score, you're able to pressure opponents in ways they can't handle, as well as be insulated when injuries and call-ups happen, which they're bound to happen at any level in professional hockey, for that matter. That's a lot of what we see from the roster in Cleveland so far. Best case is it stays intact, and they finish with 91 points for a 59.87% points percentage. That finish puts them just over Laval for a division title. Shawnee, worst case scenario for the Monsters.
Columbus is another team in this division that's not likely to be competitive in the NHL this year, and like Buffalo, could give guys like Foodie, Fix-Wolansky, etc. Significant time in the big club. However, I like the depth behind them a lot more than I do the Amerks. I think the floor is 81 points here for a 53.29 points percentage and a 4th place divisional finish.
Not bad. Still not bad for a worst case scenario. Let's talk most likely case, though. The Monsters look to be tiers, there looks to be tiers in the North Division. The Monsters, of course, are in the upper one. The top 3 are Laval, Toronto, and Cleveland. And then you have everyone else. The Monsters look firmly better than the group below them, but their goaltending isn't as solid looking. I like Tarasov. We've extolled his values, but there are still questions with him and definitely behind him, again, as we've talked about with Cam Johnson and Jet Greaves. The model has Cleveland projected for 87.86 points and a 57.8 points percentage. That is second in the division. I think they finished second, but are closer to 85 points and a 55.92 points percentage.
All right, we're going to take a break here. After the break, we'll get to Syracuse and Utica season previews. If you just wanted to hear the Monsters, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, check us out on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at The Calder Farmstead and Twitter at Calder Farmstead. We're also doing a contest giveaway and giving away 3 free AHL TV team packages. To enter, head to our Linktree page, which is scrolling down below here, as well if you're on the audio version, linktr.ee. That's linktr.ee/The Calder Farmstead. There's a little subheading there that says AHL TV giveaway, has a video explaining what you have to do, and links to all the posts that you have to do all the buttons for. It's pretty simple. It should take you 5 minutes to enter the whole thing. You have 3 entries you could do, but you can find all those instructions there. We will be right back talking Syracuse Crunch. Stay tuned.
We've talked about the Rochester Americans and the Cleveland Monsters in that order. Let's head back to New York and discuss the Syracuse Crunch and preview their 21-22 season. Their head coach, Benoit Gruel, 6th season for the Crunch as their head coach. 2021 record, 19-10-3-0. That's .641 points percentage. That was good for 3rd out of 7 teams in the North Division last year. No changes in their affiliation for 21-22. Still Tampa Bay at the NHL level. Still the Orlando Solar Bears at the ECHL level. They are scheduled for 76 games. Their key additions for this season, of course, goaltender Max Lagacé, Ryan Jones, Remy Ely, Darren Radish, reuniting the Radish brothers, Gabriel Dumont from the Minnesota Iowa Wild system, Charles Hudon, and Frederick Clayson. Some subtractions, Peter Abbandonato, Devontae Stevens heading over to Abbotsford, Ben Thomas, Nikita Pavlichev had a moment of that just froze for a second there. Nikita Pavlichev, Spencer Martin also heading to Abbotsford, and Mitchell Stevens heading out from the Tampa Bay system. Forwards for the Syracuse Crunch, first and foremost, it's a scary balance of top talent, skating speed, and defensive awareness, and that's all the introduction that you need. Let's talk individual players. First up, Otto Sampi. Why have a manual Sampi when you can have an Otto Sampi? Sampi showed what he could do on the ice and with his ice time and line chemistry of a feature role last season. I, for one, was surprised he was able to take that big a leap, but I think he's for real. Offensively, I don't think his skill set is as sexy as his line mates, as he's more of a 200-foot player rather than Radish or Kachook. He still has a good offensive toolbox, but his game is more predicated on hockey IQ, grit, and work ethic than puck skills or shooting talent. His skating is a weakness, but it's certainly passable at the AHL level. I don't know if he takes another step forward this season, but I definitely expect him to be a solid first-line center this year for the Crunch. Taylor Radish. Radish made a huge leap last year in just about every category. He played PK minutes for the first time in his AHL career, and he looked good doing it. His skating took strides forward, pun intended. I doubt he was ever considered a strong skater, but it's becoming less of a weakness with him. His playmaking vision also looked improved, as well as his ability to quickly corral loose pucks. All in all, if the Kachook, Sampi, Radish line can spend another season in Syracuse, good luck everyone else. And Boris Kachook, not Kachook, got focused on all the other Kachooks that are in the league. Boris Kachook. After a lot of young talent left Syracuse on the taxi squad last season, there were questions of how Kachook would do with the spotlight on him and thrust into a leading role. Those questions sure got answered, and he balled out. We're talking MVP candidate, at least here in the house that is the Calder Farmstead. Seemed like his monster season last year, where he was a finalist for our Best Forward Award, as I talked about, that he'd have an inside track to the bottom of the Tampa Bay roster. Then the Bolts made some veteran signings, and, well, here we are. Kachook is still a dangerous offensive weapon, especially with his shot. His skating is improving, but still leaves me wanting. His compete level, penalty kill abilities, and ability to go into the dirty areas and leave with the puck make him a clear-cut top forward in the AHL this season. Let's talk Charles Hudon. Charles Hudon is the AHL's Ovechkin. That's some heavy praise for sure. In 1920, in that AHL season, his last in the league, Hudon just blasted one-timers from the right face-off dot on the power play. He scored 27 goals. 14 of those, over half, were on the power play in 46 games. Hudon has good offensive vision and okay skating, so he's going to need line mates who can transport the puck into the offensive zone and find him. His big weapon is shooting talent, and that heavy one-timer, which I already talked about, that's going to boost the Crunch power play. Their power play was good last year, but it also played mostly teams that took a bunch of penalties and couldn't kill them. Gabriel Dumont. Dumont is probably as close to an ideal veteran as you can come by in the AHL these days. If I were in charge of trying to build an AHL roster, players like Dumont would be targets of mine. He plays a relentless game and sets a good example with his work ethic and hustle. He has a good offensive toolkit, long history of contributing on the score sheet while being physical and winning puck battles. He's been in leadership roles in every AHL organization he's been a part of, including previously with the Syracuse Crunch. He won't light the world on fire with highlight reel plays, but he's a solid veteran that sets a good example with his style of play, and he is a reliable middle six contributor. That's the ideal AHL veteran right there. Gage Goncalves. Sean, help.
I'm going with Goncalves.
You know it's bad when Sean can't even get it. Gage Goncalves. Yes, I think that's right. He made his AHL debut last season, but only got 2 games in Syracuse, one at the beginning and one at the end of the season. I'm not sure his offense with the WHL will transfer, as he did most of his offensive damage as an overager. Defensively, he plays a sound game and can kill penalties effectively. Regardless, he's got a high hockey IQ and should be useful as a middle six piece for the Crunch. Cole Kopke. Cole Kopke dipped his toe in the AHL last season, getting in 9 games with good results. A major question for him is going to be how his offensive game translates to the pace and physicality of the AHL. I like his game from juniors, good playmaking vision, hard, accurate shot, good defensive awareness. However, I saw him get pushed to the perimeter rather easily in his limited AHL tape. It's not the end of the world, but it is a concern about his offense translating over into the AHL. His defensive prowess should find him a home on the third line and penalty kill, regardless of how well he puts the puck into the back of the net. Next up, we have Gabriel Fortier. Fortier's game knows exactly 2 speeds: full tilt and bench. That's it. That's the only 2 gears he has. I don't love his skill set otherwise. He's got okay puck skills and shooting talent. Because of that, he's unlikely to be a regular on the score sheet. And defensively, he's an asset who can kill penalties and shut down good opponents in the defensive zone. So there's that. He's got that going for him, which is nice. Antoine Moran, last but not least. Freed from the depth chart burial he got in San Diego, Moran really clicked with Kapke and Fortier as last season was winding down. He showed flashes of offense, but it's questionable how much that will continue to click, given how much he struggled in the past. He's got NHL speed and an offensive toolkit that's good, but not great. His shot is uninspiring, but it's not bad. Defensively, he's active and useful. He should endear himself to coaches for that reason. I think he could be a useful third-line grinder, but could find his way higher up in the lineup to complement more polished offensive-minded players. Those are the forwards we think are going to look good for Syracuse, or at least ones that stick out to us for the Crunch this year. Defense, Sean, take it away.
This is a decor that lacks high-end flash or sexiness. It appears the plan for the defense is get the puck to the forwards, let them do forward things. You do defense things, get the puck to them. We'll start with Darren Radish. The Radish brothers reunited. Radishai? Radishes.
Veggie Tales.
Reuniting with his brother Taylor after playing apart since their junior days in Erie, Darren is a very consistent defenseman. He doesn't possess a high-end offensive skill set, but his game is more defensive and conservative. He'll join the rush from time to time and sprint down the weak side wall to be an option, but he's not going end-to-end. His shot is decent, and he's not opposed to sneaking down into the slot to be an option. Defensively, he's physical, but not overly so, and rarely takes bad penalties. He's good at completing first passes, and he's good at completing first passes and rarely makes turnovers in his own end. All in all, a solid defenseman who won't often make the highlight reel or get all-star votes, but he gets the job done. All right, next we need to talk about Frederick Clayson. Frederick Clayson snuck in a couple NHL games last year in San Jose and then in Tampa. I'm not sure if he got a cup ring or not, but, we hope so. As a defenseman, he's a grinder in his own end who has some ability to move the puck and make plays offensively. He's not terribly creative, nor his puck skills or playmaking vision anything more than average. Defensively, he's physical and wins board battles and boxes out well in front of the net without just resorting to how many lower back cross checks can I get away with, Mr. Official. In transition, he's more glass and out than stretch pass, although he can make good first passes from his own end when he's not directly under pressure. All in all, very unsexy defenseman, but he does the job well in the role that he's given. Alex Green, I think, had a pretty good first year as a pro and has a lot of desirable parts to his game. He's physical, but he doesn't get into penalty trouble. He can get transition started, even though he won't be asked to carry the puck in the offensive zone. Offensively, he's not going to find his way on the score sheet as often as his puck skills, playmaking vision, and his shot are all kind of middling. He's good at getting his shot through traffic, but it's not threatening in its own right. In a shutdown middle pair role partnered with an offensive defenseman, I think he can thrive. His partner last year was Sean Day. Sean Day certainly looked improved, as most players do when they escape Hartford. But his puck skills are good. He excels at finding clean zone exits. I think his biggest asset is his speed and skating with the puck, but I don't think he uses it enough. His consistency was a lot better this past season, as at times in the past he looked good for a few games, then have stretches where he was just careless. Defensively, he's not as physical as I'd like, and he uses his skating to make some stops and is rarely at fault for a goal against. I don't think we'll ever see the offensive numbers he put up in juniors, but I think there's a solid middle pairing with some power play upside right where he belongs in Syracuse. CC, Those are the defensemen that we think are going to, make impacts this year for Syracuse. Talk to me about the goalie room.
I'd be more than happy to. And I will apologize for our video viewers because I was kind of moving around there for a second. But when you've got a cat that's scratching at the door, this is Ninja. This is Ninja's Calder Farmstead debut. So had to alleviate that situation of him scratching at the door. So forgive me for that. Let's talk Syracuse goaltenders. First up, of course, like I mentioned, let me talk in general here. The goalie room in Syracuse is probably the most solid, maybe the most solid in the division. Both guys look capable, and with a veteran solid presence paired with a prospect dripping with potential, there's a lot to like. So let's talk about Max Lagasse. Even in Wilkes-Barre Scranton last year, Max Lagasse still looked solid over a 9-game sample size on a Penguins team that was, in no uncertain terms, bad. But that's what Lagasse has been for years now. He's been a solid netminder. He's never spectacular or in the end season awards conversations really, but just a solid, dependable starter that finishes in the 7 to 10 range in most stats pretty much every year. I think his ability to mentor Ugo Alnefeld is a big win for the Tampa Q's pipeline as well. And speaking of Alnefeld's first season, his first full season in North America, has a lot of potential. And as he said when he was mic'd up for the 2019 development camp, he's Ugo, he's from Sweden, and he stops pucks. He's a very athletic goalie who can make highlight reel saves, a fair portion of which are because he puts himself in a bad spot. But his technical structure needs some refining. With that said, he does make good reads, and he has elite reaction time, which is helpful. What's most impressive to me about him is his emotional control. Bad goal, great save, it all passes over him. He remains cool as the other side of the pillow and calm like a British propaganda poster. See what I did there. All in all, he possesses a lot of raw tools you'd want in a starting AHL goalie. He could achieve that status this season, but I'd be surprised if he doesn't start slow and build to that level for next season. All right, we've talked to individual players. Let's go to the outcomes. And Sean, what is the best case scenario for the Syracuse Crunch in 21-22?
There's a lot to like on this roster. The goalie room looks like the most promising in the division. And again, the division looks to be tight this season, but that top line talent, solid but unsexy defensive core, and goalies who I believe in lead me to believe they'll be a top team, especially as it's unlikely that Tampa disturbs them too much. I think the best case scenario here is 88 points and a 57.89 points percentage. That's second in the division and a Calder Cup contender. That's best case, CC. Let's talk worst case.
Worst case, well, the big steps forward from Kachook, Sampi, and Radish were a mirage in the pandemic season with a short schedule and watered-down talent pools. Oh, I don't know why that's so scary. Charles Hudon is still mini Ovi, but can't find guys to get him the puck effectively. Guys like Goncalves and Kopke don't develop and pick up the slack. They finish with 76 points and a even 50% points percentage. That's second to last in the division. Sean, we've gone from one extreme to the other. What is the most likely scenario for Syracuse next year?
So I was shocked, downright shocked, when the model projected this team for 78.53 points and a 51.66 points percentage. I genuinely thought I made errors in programming or something, but no, that's correct for how the model is supposed to work.
Wow.
I very much disagree with that, though. I think the points made in the best case scenario are way more likely than anything. I like this team a lot, and while, yes, the division is a murderer's row, I'm taking the over here and saying the finish is most likely 85 points. That's 55.92 points percentage and a third place division finish. I mean, I don't know, Cece. I think that I was surprised. 78 is what the model projected. I was...
Yeah, to put even, Utica, Belleville, Rochester, like you said, it's a murderer's row. We're talking about fractions of points and points percentage here, but Syracuse, especially when you have that much chemistry and that much talent, to carry that over, even like we said, worst case scenario, if it's a mirage and, they only played a handful of teams in the season, I think Syracuse really has a chance to be in that top three. for the North Division. And maybe the model, maybe there were some gremlins in the machinery when you put those figures in. Who knows? But
I literally triple checked. It is working properly. I only program it and then look at the results. I do not tamper with it. But I did make sure that everything was calculated correctly for this, and that's where it thinks them. It's not as high on their top line from last year as we are. It more is on the Mirage side than anything else. But we're going to take a break here. After the break, we will finally get to Utica's season preview. If you're just here to hear about the Crunch, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, check us out on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at The Calder Farmstead and Twitter at Calder Farmstead. You're going to need those for the contest we're doing, giving away not one, not two, but three free AHL TV team packages. To enter, go to our link tree. What's that?
Free 95. Sorry.
Free, yeah. To enter, go into our Linktree page, which is scrolling down below here. But for those listening, is linktr.ee/The Calder Farmstead. If you cannot spell The Calder Farmstead, I have no idea how you found this podcast. But go there and click on the AHL TV giveaway banners for instructions on how to enter, as well as it has links to all the posts you need to go press buttons on. We will be right back to talk about the new and improved Utica Comets.
All right, 3 teams down in the AHL's North Division, and we're going to be talking about our 4th and final team for this episode, and a little bit different scenario here because they kind of did a little bit of a franchise shuffle, and so Utica still has an AHL franchise this season. However, it is not going to be the Vancouver Canucks AHL franchise, AHL affiliate. It is going to be the New Jersey Devils AHL affiliate. So the Utica Comets still keeping the same name after all the conjecture that they were going to go back to the Utica Devils of the late 80s. It was not to be. They just updated their color palette and it looks pretty snazzy. It looks pretty sexy if I don't say so, if I do say so myself. So their head coach, Kevin Dineen, coming over from the San Diego Gulls in his first season with the Utica Comets. 2020-21 record. Oh, it was bad for Binghamton. I'm repping a little bit here today, but it wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. 7-25-2. That is a .314 points percentage as Binghamton. Once again, there's that qualifier. Good for, quote unquote, 7th out of 7 in the North Division last year. I use that good for phrase, obviously tongue in cheek. Affiliations for 21-22, New Jersey Devils and the reinvigorated and returning North Division and the ECHL, the Adirondack Thunder, will be their lower level, AA affiliate. Scheduled games for the Utica Comets, 72. And let's talk about additions to this club real quick. Tyler Wotherspoon comes over from Lehigh Valley. Chase DeLeo following Kevin Dineen over from San Diego. Brian Flynn coming in from Europe. Joe Gambardella, another Pacific Division pickup, this time from Bakersfield. Same with Robbie Russo, but from San Jose. Christian Yaros, Patrick McGrath, Samuel LaBerge, the former Texas guy. Jordan Kaplan, Joe Masonius? Masonius. That sounds better. Thank you. And Patrick Grosso, rookie. Subtractions, quite a few here. Connor Carrick is gone. Mason Jobst, Josh Jacobs, Brett Sini. These are all familiar names that we talked about quite a bit with Binghamton last year. Aaron Dell, Brandon Yinyak, Matt Tennyson. Evan Cormier is kind of still up in the air. Not sure what his contract situation is at the moment, kind of floating around in free agency. Nick Merkley, Gilles Shen, the goaltender. I think he went back over to Europe. Ben Thompson, Ben Street, Danik Martel heading over to Laval. And last but not least, Travis St. Denis. Also, that's a lot of subtractions, I feel like, for the former Binghamton Devils team that is now in Utica. Anyway, let's talk to the guys that are staying with the Utica Comets, or at least have come, have stayed. Utica's playing under New Jersey's banner now. So let's talk about the forwards that are in Utica, New York next season.
So this should be a group with a more skilled veteran presence to balance out the Utes. If said Utes can take a step forward, this should be a much improved group compared to the Devils squad last season.
Utes.
Let's start it off with, what's that?
Utes.
Sorry, youths.
I have to do that every time. It's in my contract.
So let's start off with Chase DeLeo. I'm amazed that DeLeo left San Diego. He's from Southern California and did pretty well there, even sneaking in a few games for the Ducks. It makes me wonder, he either had to be thrilled that Kevin Dineen came to Utica from San Diego, or he was kicking himself for not staying.
Stop following me.
it has to be one or the other, right? Like he signed in Utica is like, yes, I got away from Kevin Dineen, and then suddenly reads the headline like a month later, and it's just like, or he's like, I don't know. I really liked Kevin Dineen as my coach. And it's like, yeah, like it can't be in between, right? Like there's no middle road.
No, there isn't.
Regardless, DeLeo has a good skating speed and deceptive shot. He can make plays in space, but he's best attacking off the rush. Defensively, he's not a liability, and that's about it. Assuming he loved Kevin Dineen and was thrilled with the hire, I think he'll do well with Utica and provide some team speed on a roster that you could use it, and a solid center. Next, we're going to talk about AJ Greer. Greer looked like a different player entirely after the trade from Bridgeport to Binghamton, which marks probably the only time in recorded human history that someone's professional life has improved after moving to Newark. Greer's game is a jack of all trades and a master of none. He's physical and has above average offensive skills, but nothing that really stands out and separates him from the pack per se. Defensively, he's shown to be useful and can kill penalties. Offensively, he can make plays and find soft ice. Overall, he's a good depth scorer, but not a top-line guy at this point. He's very middle six kind of forward in his preferred role. Nolan Foote is likely to split time between New Jersey and Utica this year, but I don't think he should. For starters, yo-yoing prospects is very bad for their development. Second, he needs work on his game with the AHL level where he can get top-line minutes. Foote is more blunt instrument than refined tool. He has a nose for the net and the frame to handle pressure along the walls and the net front. He has solid shooting talent and can make plays in the offensive zone. But as I'm sure you will probably guess at this point, his skating speed and lack of polished puck skills mean he's going to need a center who can get him the puck into the offensive zone and then find him in the offensive zone. But once he's there, he can finish. Joe Gambardella, after a few years on the West Coast, he heads closer to home in Utica as a New York State native. A reliable depth scorer when he finds chemistry with his line mates, as he did in 18-19 with David Gust. His game is finding space to shoot and then pulling the trigger. He can make plays in the offensive zone, but he's a much better shooter. Skating, not great, and it keeps him from being a more reliable threat on the rush, as well as really anything significantly defensively. Should he find line chemistry this season, Gambardella could be a useful middle six scorer. One name that I haven't heard for a long time is Brian Flynn. I genuinely forgot who that was. After 3 seasons in the National League in Switzerland at the ripe age of 33, Flynn makes his way back to the AHL in Utica. It's been a long time since I've seen Flynn play, and we don't get the Swiss League game film here. Last I remember, he was more of a work ethic player with raw skills than anything. He had some decent puck skills and a good shot, but was an ugly skater, which I can't imagine has aged well. Regardless, he put up decent numbers in his previous AHL stints and respectable ones in Europe, so it's not unreasonable to assume that he still has something left and can contribute on offense. Now, we have to talk about the prospect that everyone is excited for, and that's Dawson Mercer. I think Dawson Mercer is the prospect I'm most looking forward to watching in Utica this season, as he checks basically every box for what Utica needs. Highly skilled, check. Intense and tough to play against, check. Defensively responsible and effective 200-foot player, check. Shooting talent, check. The only real flaw in his game is, you guessed it, skating. His stride is choppy, and that makes him look like he's working hard without the speed that matches it. This hurts his ability to play with pace and be dangerous in transition. Transition was something that was a very sore spot for the Devils farm team last season. If he can make progress in his skating stride, he's easily the most complete player on the roster and may not be in Utica long, despite me wanting him to get the full season there, because you shouldn't rush someone who is your future, probably 1C, maybe 2C. Next, let's talk about Marian Studenic. Studenic's game is based on his skating, and while he has straight line speed, he uses a lot of deceptive moves to keep defenders off balance through the neutral zone. The rest of his game is merely okay. I don't love his puck skills or shooting, and I think he'd be best utilized as a transport, carrying the puck on breakouts as a wing paired with some more offensively savvy but slower teammates like Foote or Gambardella. Get them the puck into the offensive zone on the stick of Studenic, then find them and let them do the rest of the work. Next, we have to talk about a prospect that a lot of people are high on, and that's Graham Clark. They rightfully identify his shooting talent, playmaking vision, and one-on-one puck skills. There are solid reasons for people to be high on Graham Clark's game, and I am not one of them. His shooting talent is very good. His playmaking vision and puck skills, top-notch. I won't dispute that. However, he's not a good skater. He doesn't physically engage and is easily pushed to the perimeter by defenders far less talented than he is. Defensively, he's non-existent. He's still very young and has time to grow, but he needs to be set up with good line mates in order to have success right now, and that's not exactly what you want to hear from a prospect for whom there's a lot of hope for, is that he needs guys to help carry him. Tice Thompson has a fair but not great offensive skill set. He can finish plays with decent hands in tight, but his game's selling point is shooting. His skating speed holds him back, and the rest of his game is just kind of there. On the power play, he's an absolute weapon on the half wall if he can wind up and rip it. But he can't hold a candle to winding up and rip it quite like Alexander Holtz. Not quite the AHL showing many of us expected last season, but I still see a very skilled prospect. Great puck skills and playmaking vision, and probably has one of the best shots in the AHL. What he lacks is basically everything else. He's not a good skater, isn't someone who's going to be physical or is going to make plays through contact like Foote can. Defensively, he's like just above being a liability. There's a lot to like with Holtz's game, but there's a far from complete player here that needs to take step forwards in other areas of his game before he sees the next level full time. However, man can shoot pucks. Damn good. All right, those are as many forwards as we could fit in without, literally just naming every guy that's in the Devils system. There is still a lot of chances for this to get shuffled around a bit, but we think those are the main guys who are going to stick around and be useful in Utica at the forward level. CC, let's talk defenders.
Let's talk defenders for the New Jersey Devils organization down in Utica now. I'm trying to not say Binghamton. It's just like, yeah, it's a willed effort not to say it for sure. All right. So defensemen, this is a group that was very young and made a lot of youth mistakes, as Sean says, as well as making routine failures to turn dump-ins and turnovers in the D zone into zone exits. With some more seasoning behind the Utes, as Sean says, this D-corps could take a step in the right direction. First off, let's talk Riley Walsh. Walsh showed the offensive-minded ability last year that he did in college. He's a skilled defenseman who can quarterback the power play effectively, as he has good puck skills and playmaking vision in the offensive zone, paired with an above-average shot. The rest of his game is questionable. He struggled heavily under forechecking pressure last season, making several turnovers in his own zone. Defensively, he's downright not good in the zone. It's not a good thing, obviously. His game lacks intensity, but there's a lot of offensive upside in Walsh's game. But there's also a lot of work to be done as well. So we'll move on from that. Michael Vukovic. Sorry, let me try that again. Vukovic. Wow.
Vukovic.
Thank you. Frick. Wow. Vukovic. Yeah, not finishing great. But anyway, Michael Vukovic, not a great season from Vukovic on the score sheet, but that never was a realistic outcome. Offensively, his skill set is below average as he doesn't have a good shot or playmaking vision. He struggled with making plays under pressure last year, but was otherwise fine in defending his own end. His skating is average-ish, but it was passable at the AHL level. If he can make strides in dealing with forecheckers and making good first passes, he can be useful as a mid-pair defenseman for the Comets next year. Robbie Russo. Russo's game is an offensive one. He's at his best in the offensive zone, making plays off the blue line or on the power play. Outside of that, I'm not a big fan of his game. His defensive skating is flat out bad, and he got burned often in San Jose last season. In his own end, he's not an asset. His offensive game the last 2 years has taken a dip as well. It was still useful, but not to the levels it had been steady at for years. Perhaps he finds it again in Utica, as they don't have a clear-cut defenseman for the second power play unit, but I'd be weary of putting him on the ice against top lines in defensive situations. Let's go to Kevin Ball. If you're looking for offense from the blue line, you can skip ahead here. Ball's game is a defensive man. He's there to win battles along the wall, in his own end, and in front of the net. Outside of that, he doesn't offer much. He has good edge work, and his straight line, although he has good edge work, his straight line speed is poor. Offensively, he's not creative and doesn't have great puck skills, nor does he really have a hard shot despite his size. Ball is an in-zone defensive specialist and not much else, even at the AHL level. Nikita Ahoyuk. Okay. Sean, what? How would you take that? God, this is tough.
Ahoyuk? I think it's Ahoyuk.
Ahoyuk. Nikita Ahoyuk. Ahoyuk is a defensive-only physical defender. Even if I can't pronounce his name, he's a defense-only physical defender. He skates well and can kill plays in the neutral zone. When it comes to him with the puck on his stick, he's looking to make safe passes and not try anything fancy. He's very conservative in that aspect. He struggled at times, as did the entire Binghamton team last year, with consistency, and early on looked to be overwhelmed by the speed of the pro game. As the season wore on, though, he found his game and became perhaps the only reliable defenseman in the bingo zone. Eep. This season, I don't expect much more from him. His offensive skill set is limited despite good skating and physical strength. So it can only look up from here in regards to the defensive core for Utica. I almost said Binghamton there.
I mean, yeah, they were not good last year. Mm-mm. So I can't imagine a way in which they get worse. A lot of young kids, I think they could take some steps forward. So in the hope that, guys who are 19, 20, their first taste of pro action, we're going to struggle. Like, this is a group that has some potential to move the puck, but we're going to need to see steps forward here from where it was last year, because it was ugly last year.
Ugly. Yes. We talked about it many times on the podcast for sure. Forwards and defensemen have been covered. Of course, we got the voodoo. We got Sean talking voodoo. Talk about the goaltending for Utica next year.
There's some very large Utes in the room, as well as an old reliable that should be a good balance here overall. One of the large Utes, Nico Dawes. Dawes looked like the draft pick the Devils hoped he could be in the OHL in 1920. He's got a very big frame and tracks the puck very well. He has some mechanics to work on, as his glove hand wasn't always the smoothest. He plays rather deep in his net as well, which is fine because he has the frame to take up the extra space. He's not the most athletic, but again, that's okay. I think he might take some starts to get comfortable, but should be a big improvement over what Bingo had last season. He's going to probably battle it out for that goaltending role with Akira Schmid. If you like big goalies with solid seasons in juniors, here's another for you. Akira Schmid looks to battle Dawes for that 1B backup spot like we talked about. But he's another that tracks the puck well and controls rebounds at a high level. He's also rather aggressive and skilled playing the puck too. Should anything happen into New Jersey where Dawes and Schmid are now the 1A, 1B in Utica, I'd be concerned only because of the inexperience. But the raw tools are definitely there for them to succeed right away, though. It's a matter of finding that consistency, adjusting to the pro game, and how much better shooters are than they were in juniors. We talked earlier about how the biggest transition players make is not from the AHL to the NHL. It's from juniors in college to the AHL. And if they can kind of, stumble their way through that transition, they should be okay to go. So as long as they can get up to speed with the AHL, I think they're going to be okay. Mm-hmm. Last goalie in the room here for Utica is Scott Wedgwood. And to make a comparison here, Scott Wedgwood is the Blue Moon of goaltenders. I'm talking about the beer, not the lunar irregularity. Oh. Blue Moon isn't the best beer, but it's very far from the worst. It's dependable. You know exactly what you're going to get. It's widely available. And overall, it's fine. If you order a beer at a bar and the bartender says, hey, we're actually out of that, here's a Blue Moon instead, you're like, okay, this isn't maybe exactly what I wanted, but this will work. It's a beer that you just won't really hate, but aren't, doing fist pumps because it's available. That's Scott Wedgwood in the AHL. He's a starting goaltender, but not a sexy one. He's not going to be in awards conversations. He's like the 13th to 15th best starter in the AHL when he's there, which is fine. You need a guy who can go out there and consistently, get on first base, not hit home runs. Scott Wedgwood's your man in the AHL.
As a Denverite, I appreciate the Blue Moon reference. It is a solid go-to when you don't have a specific beer in mind. You're just like, I'll have a Blue Moon. I'll have a Scott Wedgwood.
To further the comparison, it is imported. It's bottled in Quebec. Scott Wedgwood is Canadian. It's also not that old. Like, I thought Blue Moon had been around for like 40 years or something. It's like mid-90s. Also, I thought Scott Wedgwood was a lot older. He's also, started out in the mid-90s. So the comparison really sticks. Scott Blue Moon Wedgwood.
Scott Blue Moon Wedgwood. I like that. And just like Pat Nagel, the Detroit Red Wings organization standby for the last few seasons, signed in Lehigh Valley. Like you called it. You said Lehigh Valley would need a goaltender. Count it. Nailed it. Yeah. Yeah, of course we recorded that episode and then Nagel signed, but it is how it is. That's how we operate with the Calder Farmstead. The news is always, especially with the season previews, there's always news trickling in after we record episodes about those teams. But anyway, talked about the three different groups of players. Let's talk outcomes for the Utica Comets this season. Best case scenario, the kids are all right, and they take big steps forward in their development. Mercer and Holtz make beautiful music en route to leading the team in points and goals, respectively. The goaltending is improved, and Kevin Dineen shows us what we already knew to be true. The problem was Mark Dennehy. They finished with 84 points and a 58.33 points percentage. That's good for second in the division. Sean, let's go to the other side of the coin. What's the worst case scenario for the Utica Comets next year?
It's funny. I think Utica has the widest range of outcomes for any team we preview this year. It's a combination of where the roster shakes out between New Jersey and Utica, how much the prospects move forward, etc.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's raw talent in this locker room. It's just a matter of, does it develop? Do they become pro hockey players this season? Worst case is that guys like Holtz, Mercer, Ball, Wash, still struggle with the jump to pro and make young guy mistakes still.
I wasn't ready for that.
Wedgwood does his job as expected, but it's not enough. They finish with 69 not very nice points for a 47.92% points percentage, a clear last place finish in the division. That's best and worst case. CC, where do we see Utica shaking out this year?
Boy, Ball, Walsh, and a 69-point finish. That was a loaded paragraph you had there. Goodness. Most likely scenario, the truth is likely somewhere in the middle. With Kevin Dineen at the helm, I think the outcomes swing closer to best than worse. He's a damn good coach. We've already addressed that. But the division is so tight in the middle that 3 or 4 standings points separate 4th place from 7th place. The model projects them with a 74.44 points and a 51.97 points percentage. I think they do a little better with that, and we'll give them a Dineen bump, as it were, to 77 points. That's good for 53.47% points percentage and a 4th place finish. That's definitely a playoff team in the North, and hell, that's a hell of an improvement from Binghamton in the basement last year. Well, hey, that's it. We've got those 4 North teams down and underneath our belt, and yeah, that's it for the show. 8 teams down, 23 to go for our AHL 21-22 season previews. Yeah, we've got a hell of a road ahead of us. Take a deep breath. Pace yourself, Sean. We got 2 episodes down, 8 teams down. We'll get through this. All right. Well, hey, thank you for watching and or listening. The Calder Farmstead is part of the Full Press Radio Network. You can listen to this and a number of other great hockey, sports, and sports entertainment programs at www.fullpresscoverage.com. Just click on the podcast drop-down menu in the top right portion of the website and enjoy. And of course, thanks for choosing ours. We appreciate it.
If you guys are enjoying the Calder Farmstead, please make sure you subscribe so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review the podcast. Or if you're watching it on YouTube, like the video, comment what you thought of the episode. Doing so helps others find the show, and your reviews help us improve it. You can also follow the show on social media at Calder Farmstead on Twitter and at The Calder Farmstead on Instagram and Facebook. Those are going to be important as we're also doing a contest and giving away not one, not two, but 3 AHL TV team packages. Links to all of that and more can be found in our link tree, which is scrolling down below here on YouTube, but is also linktr.ee/The Calder Farmstead. That's linktr.ee/The Calder Farmstead. Big thanks to Adrian Dick, who made our theme music. You can find him on social media at AD_dysfunction. That's DYSFUNCTION. So he can make music for you too. Cece, where can people find you?
My name's CC Hockley. You can find me representing Full Press Hockey on Twitter at FPC_AHL. FPC stands for Full Press Coverage. You can also find me on my personal Twitter account at CCHawk. That's SEESEEHAWK. Majority of my tweets are about hockey, but hell, I love all of sports, love pro wrestling, love music. But hey, if it keeps me interested, I'm going to try. I'm guessing it's probably not going to be bullshit for you. I'm hoping. Check out my writing on the Full Press Coverage Network at www.fullpresshockey.com. Sean, where can people find you?
I'm Sean O'Brien. You can find me on Twitter at SeanO'Brien81. That's SeanO'Brien 81. I'm also on Instagram at SeanO'Brien_81. Like Cece, those are both personal accounts, but are, hockey-related things, some pop culture mixed in there. My Instagram is like 70% my adorable puppy. You can find my stats work, including the model that all of our projections and stuff are based off of, on Tableau at bit.ly/data-dump-and-chase, all lowercase, all one word. Cece, take us home.
That'll do it for the Calder Farmstead episode number 47. For Sean O'Brien, once again, I'm CC Hockley. We thank you all for tuning in. We always appreciate it. And we ask that you keep your stick on the ice.